His legitimacy came from his father. If you feel illegitimate today, I'm telling you, you qualified as God as your father. You are not illegitimate. There's no such thing as an illegitimate child, only illegitimate parents. Every child is perfect in God's eyes. I've never seen a baby commit adultery. So children are not to walk around guilty, feeling as if they are illegitimate. You are not illegal. They tried to make Jesus Christ himself feel like he was a bastard. One time they actually used the word. They said, we know who our father is, but who are your father, they said. And then he said, you don't know my father. They said, oh, yes, we do. Then they said, Abraham is our father. He said, before Abraham was, I got a father. If you don't know who your real father is today, I want you to say just like Christ says, before my father was, I am. Next, he got his destiny from his father. He said, I knew where I came from, I knew where I'm going. And then he got his family from his father. Very important here. One time they asked him, would you like to see your mother and your brothers and sisters outside to see you? And he was in a meeting. He sent a message back. He said, tell them, who is my mother and my brother and my sister? He said, is it not these that the Father gave me? Who are your real family? They're the ones that the Father gave you. By the way, we got to be careful, therefore, how we create an environment for our children. Because we create the family that they consider their family. And then he got, finally, his message from his father. This one blew my mind. How many times I heard myself say, my mother and my father always says. Where do you get your message from? Jesus said, I only speak what I hear my Father say. I only speak what I hear my Father say. The average person in this room, perhaps 40% of this great audience, cannot say that. I got what I know from my Father. Very few people can say that. A real father communicates to his children his philosophy, his values, his morals, and his message. And the children begin to repeat that in their lifetime. How many young men learn to curse from their fathers? Huh? Or learn to tell dirty stories from their father? Or learn to handle their drink from their father? How many times have I heard stories in my office of a young man who's an alcoholic, and he's 30 years old, and I ask him, how in the world did you become an alcoholic? He said, well, when I was 15, my father took me out on the bar stool with all of his big friends in a smelly club, and he said, son, tonight I want to teach you to be a man. And he sat me in that smoky bar room and said, son, here's your first drink. Now hold it down. I'm going to teach you to be a man. What a message to communicate to a son. He says, I drank it and I choked. It burned me. My tongue was messed up. And my father says, you sissy, keep it down, son. Keep it down. You got to be a man. You got to keep your liquor down. Training an alcoholic. Son, here's the first cigarette, and don't cough. What message do you give your son? We need fathers who teach their sons the right message so their sons can walk away with a message from their father that they can give to their sons. Jesus got all that from his father. He expressed his need, his dependency, his submission to his father. I want you to understand that he is the greatest model of sonship. Let's read this in John 8. This is amazing. Every man in here should remember this verse as the example of a real son to fatherhood. And that includes your pastors. If you are a member of this organization and of this local fellowship, I am your father, Pastor Richard is your father, and no matter how old you are, if you submit to us, this is the attitude you should have right here. And you young men whose father's still alive and you're living in their confines, this is your attitude. Now let's read the attitude of a good son. It says, but he who sent me is reliable, and what I heard from him I tell the world.